in quotations gift basket.
Alrighty, we're rolling, so here we go.
What?
It's so moist.
Hey everybody, welcome to Functional Meatheads. I'm Mark DeSalvo.
Any right-left imbalance of the oculomotor muscle generates a right-left disequilibrium in the muscles of the body, resulting in tilting and rotations.
Is that your introduction for today?
And I'm Froilan Sanchez.
And welcome to Functional Meatheads. It's good to have you here with us. I have good news and bad news to share.
Steelers suck, and that's the good news.
Well, no, I was actually going to talk about, it appears that through the series of upgrades that Google was doing last week to Hangouts, I think last week's podcast may have been eaten by the universe, because it's not...
Of course you say that. You say that as it freezes for 10 seconds. What did you say?
What I'm saying is that our podcast last week that we recorded was eaten by the technological universe. Maybe it was because we were talking about so much truth.
Oh, really? That was like, are you serious? That's weird. That's weird.
Isn't that funny that podcast of all of them seems to have disappeared and didn't record properly?
That's very... It didn't record properly. That's weird. Like, we have it, or we just...
I could not... I went to edit it today so I could post it tomorrow morning, and I could not find it.
I wonder what they did with it.
I'm thinking, on my non-conspiracy theorist side, that they were doing a lot of upgrades to Google last week. Hangouts was completely changing its layout, and it just got lost. But I don't know. Yeah, what it also means is that I need to probably have a backup and shouldn't rely only on Hangouts to be the main recording of the show. So I'm gonna have to...
They're always changing things. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to work out the kinks with that and figure that one out.
That's a good one too.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I mean, all hope is not lost. I might be able to email tech support or figure something out. But,
yeah. Does Google even have tech support?
Who knows? I mean, I would imagine.
It's free. They shouldn't have tech support. Everything is free.
Yeah, right.
Actually, no, they're mining our data, so they get a lot of money off us.
Right. And I don't know that I had good news, but can you explain what you were reading at the beginning of the podcast there?
So that's that book, Total Postural Reprogramming, because now I'm all into muscle activation and posturology.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense, and I think I mentioned it last week maybe. But his theory is that there's three things that determine posture: eyes, jaw, and feet.
Mm.
If anything is off with any of those, you're going to get all kinds of compensations, along with any compensations from injuries or etc. So, and it makes such a simple sentence. If there's any imbalance in the eyes, like I just read, in the ocular motor issue area,
mm-hmm.
your body's going to be compensating slightly with like rotations and torsions just to kind of see. Like the simple example is you can't see you're farsighted, so you bring a book right close to your body, and by doing that you don't only bring the book to from hands to face, you also might crane your neck a little bit forward, all these subtle small little things because you're trying to squint, your face crunches, etc., etc. Just expand that with like one eye being weaker than the other or one eye being stronger. Your body might position itself in small little rotations that you can't really see, or torsions. I've always kind of theorized that that's something to do with it, especially the jaw, because I used to carry a lot of tension in the jaw, and you kind of know that a lot of people with tight jaws have forward head as well, and they also have forward shoulders. And there's, how you can sometimes look at, say, okay, I know this person has this with their back, so I can already, before even seeing them, I know this, this, and this.
Right.
So it's an interesting book. It's pretty technical. It's very, very technical. So I'm kind of excited to see. But it involves like magnets and small little orthotics that he puts in to kind of fix things. Not regular orthotics, but like certain placed orthotics that go like on a quarter-sized area of your shoe.
Yeah, for minor adjustments that put things back in line and whatnot.
Yeah, like little minor, it's kind of crazy. I'm like, well, it's pretty interesting. So I'm glad I spent money well spent, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Hold up the cover of the book real quick to the screen and say a word so I can hear you.
Total postural reprogramming.
Ah, okay. So you got it in the mail.
Yeah, I got it. It took 2 days, dude. Amazon's like genius. Now they tell you what they I have the app, so it texts me when it ships, and it texts me when, not text, like a literal sign. Text notifies me when it ships, and it notifies me when it arrives.
Well, how about that?
And their box is now like a single serve box, so it has handles on the bottom, and you can rip open from the bottom to open it up. It's like everything. They've really put a lot of thinking into it. And I also got the turmeric with curcumin that Rhonda Patrick mentioned.
Interesting.
So if I die tomorrow, it's because I had some cross effect with some other stuff that I take too.
I eat that almost every day in my chicken because I cook chicken with that stuff.
Oh, really good.
Yeah.
I don't really have a taste for it. That's why I kind of have to eat it that way.
Yeah, you know what's funny? It's a very powerful spice because it kind of acts as like a neutralizer to others. So you could make some really awesome grilled chicken, but you put that on and it just completely nerfs the flavor.
And that's what it also does with the half-life of certain drugs. So that's why I'm kind of worried about the other stuff that I take along with it. So.
Right, that's what's kind of interesting about it is I'm thinking that like if that's what it's doing to flavor, imagine what's going on inside your body.
Yeah, you know me, I'm always willing to try something.
Yeah, oh, totally. And then we have a cool topic today, so I won't harken too much on the projects, but I have to say my recovery from my rib injury had been going well until I decided to try pull-ups on Friday last week, and ever since then, when I was on a wider grip pull-up at the lowest point and feeling a stretch, I definitely felt kind of at that bottom of the lat, maybe like in that QL area, extremely tight, and it was like pulling for the first time. And I don't mean pulling as like when people say, "Oh, I pulled a muscle, I'm hurt." I just mean that there was pulling, and after that, it did something that now I'm getting referral pain to my rib again. Like,
wow, bummer.
Now I understand what it is, so.
I think you should try those other exercises religiously and just see what happens because my QL, I didn't know I had a QL problem until I started doing those exercises because there's one of them that in there that just wakes it up right in the morning. It's like, ow, ow. I do it and it hurts. By the end, it doesn't hurt, and then at the end, my body feels awesome.
Right.
There's one specific QL exercise that just goes boom, boom, and it fires into it. So it's kind of interesting that you mentioned that, but. So that means you had, okay, so your arms were up. I think what that means now is maybe your lats aren't activated properly.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. And
your shoulder was pulling on your lat only as like a piece of fascia to kind of, and that, usually when I hang, because I've always had a bad back, but it's better now, but when I hang, I feel it in the area you're talking about. But that's just because I'm so tight in the lats before I started activating my lats on a regular basis. So maybe that's something you can look into.
That's actually exactly what I looked into, and it's funny you mentioned that because what I was going to get to next is that I was looking that up, like how, what's the referral pattern here? And the website I was looking at, it's on my iPad, which I don't have in front of me, but they were talking about how while trigger points are very rare in the lats because it's such a big muscle.
Yeah.
You can get them, and when you do, the direct referral, like the direct line of where things start to screw up, are two muscles, and I bet you can guess them based on listening to my injury. Yeah. It's iliocostalis and the QL. That they both just go into this tailspin when you have trigger points in the lat, and I suspect I do because, like you said, since the injury, I always had very supple lats, as you might say. I always had very flexible, loose, limber lats, but on my left side, I still have it on my right, but on my left side is extremely tight because of that injury. And if I go over on a foam roller with it, or if I get kind of my fingers deep in there, there's a lot of grit, and you can feel it in my lats. There's a lot of just shit, So I am very. I think it's extremely likely I have some knots, some trigger points in the lats, and that's what's going on,
Well, muscle activation would say to just activate the lats first, which is very simple. Lie on your stomach, and then kind of roll your shoulders halfway up, bring them back, like your shoulder blade back, and then just fire down so you can feel the lower musculature, the lower shoulder musculature, and the lats fire. I started doing that before I started doing lat workouts, and I've never been able. I've been able to feel my lats like crazy. It's just a simple movement, boom, 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 and then it tells you to fire your shoulders because you need to fire the opposite. So the antagonist, you need to fire everything. So you need to fire the actual muscle, the antagonist, and the synergist. So the book has all that stuff in there, so you can fire everything all at once. Because it says if something's not working right, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just the muscle. It could be the opposite muscle that has it jacked up or the synergist that has it jacked up. So that's why you kind of have to do everything to make sure it's right.
I might have to get this book when we're off the air.
Well, that book is different. The other book is the one I was talking about, the neurokinetic therapy. That's the one that will tell you how to activate everything.
Right.
The other thing is, I would do those other exercises. I'm telling you, they're going to bring you a world of good because they stretch. They basically get your core in sync with your hips, which involves your ribs and everything else, and your upper body in a certain way. So it's kind of it marries. I can't. It's hard to explain, but it marries everything together. And they're mostly what I'm talking about are posturology / muscle activation warm-up routine that we have. I've been using it to like miraculous results, sharing it with clients to some awesome results as well. So I think once you kind of do it for 2 weeks, it takes about 2 weeks to kind of feel really good with it and just study it, write it down. All I did was watch it multiple times. It's because it's in a video form. I just watched it multiple times, watched it, did one, watched it, did one, watched it, did one, and then I made a list. I just broke it down. I treated it like a workout for 2 weeks. I go, this is the only thing I'm going to do. Because I wanted to give it a chance as opposed to foam rolling. I'm like, all right, not because it takes so much more time to foam roll, but because I go, look, if this theory is correct, I won't have any knots. Meaning, if all my muscles are working like they're supposed to, the only knots I'll have are from injury, old injuries, current injuries, or current workouts that I'm doing, in a way. So that's the theory. That's why sometimes muscle activation people are a little not too with foam rolling because it doesn't turn anything on. But anyway, that's enough of that. But yeah, my suggestion to you would try that for a week and then report back to see how you feel, especially if you started getting referred pain.
Yeah. See, it's good to know what I know from my injury though, because I know that it's not like, all right, well, you didn't tear something. It's like I can guess pretty effectively where it's coming from. This is a feeling I felt before.
Yeah.
So I'm going back to the rehab routine, because I also started to progress in the past week out of my rehab routine that was kind of designed for me by a physical therapist, and it was going well up until I tried the pull-ups, which means I'm having, like you said, problems with the shoulders, lats, all that stuff. But
try that exercise. I would love to see. You're the perfect case. You're the perfect case study for this example of like, okay, let's see if this other routine works, because yeah, the routine you got from your PT is awesome and it worked, but obviously it's not the root of the problem,
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it was something.
Yeah.
It was something meant to. It was something meant to kind of get you out of the injury doldrums. Yeah. Totally.
I mean, I've been fascinated with it because if all this stuff is right, this posturology and the muscle activation technique, and of course I keep I'm not 100% like this is it. There's nothing. All I can go off is my experience, and the theory of it all seems to, if it's true, the theory of it all seems to go to the root of things. It's not like, well, let's try this, no, this thing says, okay, goes deeper than a lot of things, which I kind of like. It's like, yeah, if your hamstring, I've just been testing my clients' hamstrings, and half of them have hamstring, they can actually resist my hand, and some of them can't even, like, the lightest pressure just brings it down. And I'm like, Jesus, I've been doing squats with these people for years, and their hamstrings haven't been activated,
Yeah, I mean, it treats like you said the root cause, not symptoms.
Yeah, I think it's worth it. You should check it out. But yeah, I would love to hear what you say about it, and then we can kind of talk about it with the people here on the podcast just to see what they say. But
yeah,
I felt different 1 week into it, and then 2 weeks out of it, I felt awesome. And then again, like you said, I played soccer this week, and I got some back pain, and I was like, okay, what's going on? Like, I haven't felt this in a while, and it was just, I pushed it really hard. I came back. I don't know how to go back like at 30%. So I came back really hard. I played for 2 hours, and I played football later, and I was like, all right, I pushed it too far. So my hamstring was good, but since I've done this stuff, I am sore in muscles I haven't felt in like 10, 15 years. Like these little muscles in my legs, right, assisters to the hamstrings and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been sore in these muscles a lot in a long time. And I've been doing this thing for about 3 weeks now, dedicated. And my body was able to move in ways that it hasn't moved in like 20 years. Like muscle memory of like, okay, a soccer ball's in the air. Okay, I'm gonna trap it with my thigh, and it's gonna land by my foot, and then I'm gonna move this way. Which I could have the same thought when I was like 4 weeks ago when I was playing. I could have the same thought, but my body felt tight. Like I couldn't do the maneuver. Almost like you have a weight belt around your waist, but it was, and only now do I realize it because I'm more loose.
Right.
And when I was playing football, it's almost like my body remembered how to do this from when I was younger, but it just couldn't do it.
Oh, you don't have to tell me about that stuff. When I'm at my best in jiu-jitsu, I am extremely loose, in ways I don't know that I've ever been.
And then I was playing football, and I was covering a guy, and I was able to do moves like cornerback moves where like I'm shuffling back and then changing my shuffle and reversing to the other. I haven't been able to do something like that in a long time. I was like, whoa, this is like real stuff. And of course I'm paying the price because I was super sore the next day and super sore now, but feels good. I'm telling you, man, try it out. I'd love to hear what you say because you're the perfect person to try it right now. So.
I will try it. I will tell you two things up front. One is that through my own routine of things that they come from this philosophy, but probably are not as well curated as what you're referring to. Anytime I do anything to activate and kind of loosen up, or grind away, massage, loosen up, the pain goes away for a while. You put yourself in a good position, I'm fine. It's only when I go back to the crappy positions it reverts back real quick. So I'll be curious to see how that works with it. And then secondly, I'll say, and this has nothing to do with anything really. It's just more of how I learn. I hate learning through, even though videos are the next best thing, I hate learning through videos on the internet. I love just having someone teach you or being there in a classroom or in that type of setting. Like it's so hard for me to like really nail it without that like one-on-one instruction. Like to me, that's worth every penny that someone charges.
Yeah, I broke it down because it was a video. I dedicated like a good half hour of I'm just gonna watch it 3 times. I watched it 3 times. Okay, I'm gonna try to understand what they're doing without listening. Kind of just there. I kind of got into the head of the person. I was like, okay, do this, and then I did it. I watched the video, paused it, did the exercise, watched it, paused it, did the exercise. Like I really ramped up, almost like just like a new person at the gym. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this, so that when I was ready to go, I was able. So I started 30 seconds each, and then I did it for a minute. You're supposed to build up for a minute. I did 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds in a couple days. Then I built into the minute, and then I started flowing with it, and I kind of understood it. And then I had somebody to talk to about it, because it was the trainer that showed me. You could trade off ideas, and that's obviously where I'll come into play with you. But it's something, I think I know what you're saying. It sucks to kind of have it that way, but I think I kind of appreciated it because it was, like you said, you already have an inkling about it in terms of the theory. You've always thought the theory was somewhat in there in your head, just like I was. So this was just a way for me to kind of, put the exclamation point on the theory to kind of say, okay, yeah, this is right. And then I just made sure my form was good, and anatomy helps. You probably know more anatomy than I do, so knowing the anatomy of, okay, what are they trying to do? What does this move do? Okay, that's what it does. Okay, do I feel it in that area? Yes, okay, I'm good,
Right.
So in a way, it kind of brought me a little bit closer to a lot of the stuff I was doing. But yeah, videos are kind of weird, so.
Yeah,
I don't
but
have angles.
No, but I mean, you know, there's a lot to be said for videos and the internet and reading, though, because it's how we've kind of learned and educated ourselves to this degree, and how many other people, you know, have as well. But like that's why I said though, like honestly, when I can get that one-on-one instruction, it's just the night and day. You know, it's just the little adjustments of an expert that just snap everything into focus. But in terms of what you would do with your newfound soreness, I think that's a good segue into our
Oh yeah, for sure.
into our topic today.
And again, to bridge both, I think, like you said, I pushed it, so I felt pain in a place I've always had pain, with all of my back. And pain pathways, again, are very, once you get that pain pathway, it's the easiest thing your body can go to. So it always wants to go that route. So reprogramming and retraining it is hard. And sometimes it's not, I'm not going to say phantom pain. Sometimes just because the pathway is there and you've done something along a pathway that's near it, you'll feel pain. It's kind of weird. Pain's always like a weird, in the body, once you create that neural pathway to pain in a certain area, the body kind of revisits it. So that's why I'm not too worried about my back this time. I just really overdid it. You know, my body's mechanism to protect itself kind of go along in a certain way, especially with my hamstrings being a little sensitive. So.
Well, that's a very healthy. That's actually very good that you brought that up, because those pathways of pain can really haunt people, and it's also what I'm trying to do here with my example of kind of putting that mind over matter, you know, because that is very powerful in pain management. I had a very good friend who, like I told you before, had an injury, and I can't remember what track event it was in college, and had pain for years. That you know, he even went and sought help from sports psychologists to see if he was really actually feeling the pain. It's a very powerful thing, you know. It's a
yeah, and then that kind of thing is like, if I feel pain in my back, I'm going, oh my god, I'm back, and I'm like, no, it just happens there. I pushed it a little bit, and then it knew to go there, and that's fine. You know, it's gonna go away. Today I actually did 2 weird exercises. Like, so I took what I learned from the videos, and I took what I learned from muscle activation. I took what I've been learning the last 3 weeks, and I created this new routine just on my own, using some of the starrette, using some of the muscle activation, using some of posture stuff, and I made this little routine that like totally like fixed my back. And I learned a little bit more about my my adductors as well as my external rotators, and I was able to kind of whack my sacrum back into place. And I'm like, whoa, this is kind of crazy. So now I have something, you know, that I kind of can play with on my own and show people that have a little bit of the same issue. So it's kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, soreness is, like you said, soreness is an interesting thing. To kind of go back what we talked about last week, even though we might not put it out.
not our fault.
Most people in the gym are there out of fear, which is something we talked about. You know, fear of being overweight, or fear of being ugly, or fear of being not big, or fear of this. And I think that fear kind of transfers into like either sweat equity or I need to feel this tomorrow. I don't feel like I didn't do anything type mentality. And I've been obsessed with this because, you know, how many clients do you have? Like, I'm not sure after our workouts, or I'm not this after our workouts. And I'm like, you know what? I can't destroy you. No, I can't destroy you if you got 5 hours of sleep last night. I can't destroy you if you work, you know, 16 hours a day. I can't do these things that you want to do because, in essence, I'm just harming your body. You know, well, I'm not going to see progress. I'm like, no, you're going to see progress because you're moving your body. You're just not going to see the feeling that you have the next day, in a way. And so Mark and I have always on a quest to, you know, we're always on a quest for the truth of what health is and the fitness is. And I obviously put truth in quotations. And we came across this one article that was right along up this alley.
Yeah, it was. Well, what it was a nuanced view on being sore. So, I mean, everything you said is correct in terms of kind of how we think about it. But the one thing that I always kind of is a pet peeve of mine with people talking about wanting to be sore or not wanting to be sore after training is that it kind of lacks a certain finesse or a nuance or a truth to the soreness. It's like you said, some people, they don't feel like they worked unless they got sore the next day or that day or 2 days later, that somehow whatever they did just wasn't worth it. And that kind of comes from a very like I said, that's an overly simplistic view. Because to me, the number one thing is that being sore affects your next performance. And if you want to perform your best, you're not going to be able to perform your best when you're feeling off your game or not 100% or sore or in pain. And usually that hinders your range of motion and countless other things. Joe DeFranco talks about this a lot. I always kind of enjoyed his view on it. And not that his view was particularly complex or anything. It was just more of that mindset. I believe it was Joe DeFranco. I hope I'm giving credit.
I respect him because your mindset and his mindset comes from an athlete's perspective, which some people, well, I'm not an athlete, I just want games, I want to look big, and I'll let you finish this in a second, but a person who has an office job and works every day and goes to the gym 3 times a week, they're not an athlete. It's obvious they're not an athlete. They're a life athlete, meaning they need to be optimal, get good sleep, drink enough water, be happy, blah blah blah, all that good stuff,
Mm-hmm.
But so even walking around sore is they think it's good, but it's not, because they're not optimizing their full human capacity. And it's kind of I don't know. That's why I've always respected your opinion and DeFranco's, and obviously this guy's. And this guy is really good. I didn't realize this. Remember I was telling you I found a bunch of new exercises on YouTube?
I'm not sure. I think so.
Yeah, this guy happens to be. I never looked to see who wrote the article. It's this guy, so that's pure coincidence.
Oh, that these are his workouts that you've been looking at.
He's got a really good workout video. He's like a PT. He's like a physical therapist / trainer, and he's kind of melted both workouts together. And I'm like, he's got some really good exercises.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at the brief example program that he put at the bottom of the article, and I was like, oh, I liked how he broke everything down. He said, this is the exercise, this is the set and rep scheme, this is the intensity, this is the volume, this is why we do it, and and I was like, oh, this is what is lacking in just about every article on.
And he's like you said, he's very nuanced. Like he put 2 big, heavy exercises that he knows are going to make you sore, and then 2 that are core workouts that are not make you sore, but it's 4 I think 5 exercises, and that's it.
Right. But even going back to what you were saying, the thing is that even if you're not an athlete, or even if you're not looking to use or you're not actively looking to use your current state of your body and your daily performance, the theory to me still applies, because if you're very sore and you're having trouble bending down for things, that's going to create a problem, because you're probably going to work around your pain, which is what we always do.
Yep.
You'll probably create some kind of bad compensation, or by moving around the pain, you're going to hurt yourself, because that's usually how people, jack themselves up. Think about how many times you might have been reaching for something under a desk, and you bent in a weird way because you thought it might hurt if you went this way, but you end up hurting yourself worse in a place you didn't even expect. It's like trying to protect your lower back and you pull your hamstring,
Yeah, I agree.
It's and that to me is you're just increasing the likelihood that you're going to hurt yourself. And I'm going to wager that if you're sore from a workout, you value on some level being able to go to the gym, even if it's coming from a place of fear. You're still going to keep yourself out of the gym if you're not kind of conditioning yourself the right way in your everyday life. So that to me has always been silly, but I also know that not everyone thinks like I do, and that's kind of the challenge of life, is always managing different ways of operating and people and how they think about things. And what was interesting about this article, this guy, let's give him credit, Will Levy is his name, and yeah, great article. It's on a site that's actually pretty good too, breakingmuscle.com. They have some fairly good articles pretty often. They were talking about what actually causes DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness, if you've never heard the term before. And this is a pet peeve of mine, just because I've been doing all this CSCS stuff for so long. When people are always saying, yeah, you're sore because of the lactic acid. I'm glad that he right off the jump was just like, no, that's not it at all. You know?
Well, according to what he uses, two very good studies to talk about it. Yeah, lactic acid.
Yeah, and he talks about how what is likely at play there, and this is what's so, and this is why this goes into another podcast that we had a few weeks ago. That what's likely to blame is micro trauma in the muscles from from the work. And then he also says that there's also a conflicting study that says it might not be microtrauma at all, but it's actually probably, what is it here? I have the article.
Joint damage?
Connective tissue white microtrauma plays. Oh, but what I was actually getting at is that he was asking the question to people saying, am I not going to build muscle if I'm not sore?
Yeah.
And then he gets into the nuances of hypertrophy and how you actually get big muscles and completely dispel that. So that I liked. And it kind of goes back to like what we were just saying before. A subject like this merits a nuanced view. And I think that it's also why things can be easily labeled as bro science, because there's so many things that are so inexact, that a lot of these things are based on anecdotal evidence rather than, something measured.
I like what he said that I enjoyed what he said about, there's three things that make up gains, if you will, quotations.
Gain.
Muscle tension, metabolic stress, and muscle damage. And you can get gains from the first two. It doesn't have to be just the third.
And honestly, too, anytime you're under any degree of tension or stressing yourself metabolically, there's going to be muscle damage involved. So you don't have to work extra hard to create that damage,
Yeah. And there's a nuance. There's I keep using the word nuance today, but there's a certain way that you can move the workout how you want it. So I hate being sore. It doesn't mean I never get sore. I just hate being sore. And I hate the feeling of being sore. It feels like I'm wearing tight pants. I hate being wearing constricted. So, there's a couple things I can do. I can stretch a lot, practice stretching. I could do yoga. I could do that. Or I like to work out. Some days I like to work out hard. That's not denying it. But I plan my week where, okay, I want 2 hard days and then the rest kind of medium, because I don't want to put too much stress on my system, right? I walk a lot. I'm pretty active. I bike to work. I do a lot of stuff. So if anything, I need to find areas where it's not too crazy.
Right.
So I find I got the most gains ever, or the most, best results with my body were when I took care of everything outside the gym, so sleep, food, nutrition, hydration, meditation, and then worked out just below blowing everything out. So maybe moderate to light heavy work. And I found I got the most gains out of all that stuff. Never just redlining it every time, never redlining. Just kind of taking care of everything, taking care of the machine first and foremost, making sure the machine is feeling good, slept well, drink water, etc., and then pushing it just enough so I'd be a little bit sore but not devastated.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be active and mobile. So I actually find the best way you can nuance it like that. So that's more like 60-40, outside 6% outside, 40% gym.
Right. Well, that's not just being nuanced for the sake of being nuanced. That's just good program design. I mean,
yeah,
you can't redline it all the time. You have to have.
Well, I think that's where it comes in with training. Is they think if they're paying for something, I need to be destroyed, and that's where I got sick of people going. I'm like, you can't. You tell me how you don't sleep. You tell me how you work 16-hour days. You tell me this. You tell me that. I'm like, I'd have to be the biggest idiot trainer to. All right, we're gonna balls to the wall,
Yeah, one skill that's good to have as a trainer too, and I'm sure you've probably done this before, and this is the one exception I make to that rule, is that if I have somebody who I know is kind of on the cusp of really starting to understand that transition into kind of healthy living, for lack of a better term. You know, I don't have a way like a functional meatheads approved life. If I'm noticing someone who's on the cusp and they're having a lot of trouble with the sleep thing, and they're having a lot of trouble getting themselves to bed on time, or whatever their issue is with sleep, that there have been times, and call me irresponsible or whatever, that I'll push them just enough to the point where I know that they'll be so tired that they're going to have to go to bed at 9 o'clock. And I've done that before, and people have thanked me for it, you know. And
well, I've seen that before. Yeah, I've seen that.
And it's what you need. And I do that to myself sometimes. That, like, you know, I, as a whole, for the past, I don't know, 6 months or so, haven't had too many problems with sleep. You know, I've been fine. But even on the nights where I don't get it, or maybe if I string together maybe 2 or 3 nights where it's a little erratic, you know, I'll wake up that next day. I'll make sure I get up at 7. I'll make sure maybe I just push it a little bit harder because I'm going to have to go to bed at 9 that night and get myself back on schedule, you know.
No,
So
I hear you. I hear you.
there are responsible ways to use it, but it's true. You know,
Well, go ahead.
that's the thing that people just don't understand, and I'll make my point quick, that, you know, like you said, people come to a trainer and they expect to be paid. They expect because they're paying they're going to be destroyed or feel a way that they couldn't feel on their own. That's, you know, it always brings you back. The first thing I always think of is CrossFit. And the thing that because I like combat sports and am involved with them, the one thing I brought me back to the most recent Joe Rogan interview with Ryan Parsons. And he's a manager for a couple fighters. Most famously Randy Couture and Dan Henderson. But he was talking about how you need to measure, or when you're programming for an athlete, there's, especially a combat sports athlete, you kind of have to really monitor the intensity at all times, because, you know, what good would it do for the center of the strength and conditioning program of an MMA athlete to be CrossFit when just yesterday he was in a 5-minute per round sparring session? That's as high as an intensity as you can get, and CrossFit is with the next day that would then be matching that intensity. So now you have 2 days of extremely high intensity, which is just bad programming mechanics to begin with if you're dealing with people involved with sports. So, you know, you have to always take a step back, and you have to ask yourself, you know, what you really should be paying someone for is that understanding, you know, that kind of knowledge.
It's cultural issues. I think it's money issues. I think it's a whole, like, and I don't want to just say it's an American thing, but I kind of feel like it is. You know, I think of it like if I'm willing to go pay $40 for a Tai Chi class, right?
Mm-hmm.
Am I sweating in that? Am I exerting? I mean, it probably is really hard, but I'm just saying it's like, it's the anti-workout, right? It's the anti-CrossFit, if you will.
Right. Tai Chi is hard, but it's not hard for the same reason CrossFit's hard. If you've ever done it, it's very difficult.
So it's a weird way. Like restorative yoga, not hard at all. It's hard for if you're inflexible, but in terms of anything else, not too crazy. So I don't know. It's a whole thing that you kind of have to unplug from. Like, okay, I'm not a meathead. You know, I'm not here to get destroyed and be like, yeah, okay, I can't go to the bathroom tomorrow because I'm so sore. So in a way, it's a good way to think about an athlete. An athlete, if you're an athlete, a life athlete, your job is to be able to have a nice life, personal life, go to work and enjoy that. You know, like kind of do everything else. But if you're there at the gym to get take out your stress and feel so sore and take it out in your body, or I can't sleep, so I'm gonna go work out, then you're kind of doing things wrong. Because what happens when you get injured and you can't work out? Then what do? Just blow your brains out? You know, it never works out to put so much on working out. It's not a good thing to do that. So the best thing that I do is the one thing that I recommend. And when I started my life change, before I knew about meditation, before I knew about anything, I knew I didn't sleep well because I was just always on the go. So what I did exactly what you talked about. I would run 10 to 12 miles a day just to be so exhausted that I could fall asleep. That was my logic. That was my theory. That was everything. I go, I don't want to think about anything. I just want to be so tired that by the time I put my head on the bed, I could crash. But that's pretty much redlining your personal life, you know?
Right. And
My
that,
time, my time away from the gym, my time away from work is my personal time. And if I can't manage my personal time to the point where I need to be exhausted to be able to fall asleep, there's something really, really, really wrong. And that's a compensation right there. You can't sleep, so you're compensating through working out. You know, so that's long term. That's not a good thing. So I started going, okay, how can a person learn to sleep? Okay, you always go through pills. Okay, that's not long term. So then you leave the pills, and then you start thinking. You eventually get to somewhere where it's meditation, eating right, and meditating right. So okay, I'm gonna do that. So that, if it comes full circle, if you're able to have the right perspective on things and to pay attention to your body, so you know, even at the basic level, being sore is pain, right? It's a level of pain. So my thing with that is if you're at the point where you're redlining in terms of I want to be sore every time I work out, then how do you know what it feels like for your body to A, not be sore, just not be sore, and then B, be limber, mobile, not, be flexible, like what's going on? How are you going to have a better degree of how your body feels and such? So it's almost like I told you, before I started doing these posturology warm-up, I thought I was healthy and felt good. And then I finally found another degree of like, oh man, this is what it feels like to feel really loose and limber and flexible again. I just didn't have that same feeling because I hadn't been that way in a long time. So there's always different degrees, and meditation helped. Meditation and the posturology, muscle activation stuff, because I was able to combine. This is what it feels like to be relaxed. This is what it feels like when I'm meditated. I can put those two together and walk around like that now.
right.
It's very interesting. It's a very interesting dynamic on how I've changed in terms of what all those things mean to me and in practical aspect. And that's the hardest thing about training is trying to get your client to balance everything so that they can feel that this is what it feels like to feel good. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important point to make too, because a lot of people will go to a trainer or go to someone like us because they had some kind of compulsion or inclination that this is kind of what they needed when they needed it, and oftentimes they're right. But then sometimes after someone's working with us for a while, there's a frustration on their part of why some like Freud I might tell you to go, seek some kind of balance, because basically what you were just talking about is a very balanced approach. It's a very, very carefully researched and balanced way of kind of maintaining yourself and feeling, having some sense of vitality. And when we start asking you or showing you kind of ways of doing things a little differently than just, hitting a barbell or, pounding a Stairmaster, it's why you naturally resist us. You naturally resist us a little bit because you thought that all you need is this. But really what we're showing you is you kind of need a lot more, Like, we're only the beginning,
I've lost clients because of that.
Yeah, and that's a tough thing, and I think it's important to understand that it's like it's something we're doing. It's something we're doing just to kind of. It would be dishonest of us not to do that. It would be dishonest of us not to make you understand or try to help you understand that that it's bigger than just a gym. It's bigger than just a yoga class. It's bigger than foam rolling alone. There's a lot of things, and it's why it's such a strange industry. It is a lot about how you feel. That's another reason I think that this is all a strange thing. And I was going to go back to something you said before, but what you said before I started talking and this rant I just went on.
I understand. Like, I think that it's important for people to realize that you and I have worked in the gym industry. We kind of live that. But the more I see things and the more I learn about muscle this, muscle that, posture this, foam rolling that, mobility this, nutrition that. It's so limiting to just apply everything to a gym environment. The best exercises are ones that you figure out, okay, a kettlebell or a sandbag or somebody's body against you or kickboxing. And I don't mean these things in particular, like this thing is that's it. I mean the movement and what it does to your body and how unique it is from a dumbbell or a barbell or anything in the gym, a machine. You know, the more I sit at my gym and I'm looking at people on the machines, I'm like, this is disgusting. Like, it grosses me out to see people on the machines just do it every day, the same people doing the same things on the same machine. You know, I'm like, this is so anti anything healthy, you know? It's,
Yeah.
the people who make these machines should literally be put in prison, and this is the worst thing you can do to somebody. I really feel that strongly about it when I see that, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think that the only nice thing you can say about some machines is that they were made for rehab, not for commercial use, or they were made for a very specific purpose. And it's
Yeah, and I don't mind that. Yeah, obviously I don't mind. I was getting a little extreme there, and I don't mind that. But yeah, you're right. Sometimes you need to start off on there, but I was coupling it with the fact that I see the same healthy, able-bodied people on there.
oh yeah.
And it literally is the same thing every week. Nothing changes.
Right. I mean, that's something I struggle with, and I go back and forth between, because there's sometimes I feel like you, and I just am like, you're just missing it. And then there's other times where I'm thinking to myself, I don't think for them it's really about anything we're talking about, except for maybe the woo-woo. They just enjoy the routine. Like, they need that routine in their life, just showing up, just do that, lose.
That's the thing. Like, you and I do this podcast because we want the truth about working out.
Right.
That is so far from the truth. Just like 4 days of Soul Cycle. 4 days of Barry's Boot Camp. All that. All the stuff that passes itself off as health, and it's just a way to get money it's a way to sell something and get money in an environment that people think they want. It's just a weird. It's so far from what the knowledge that is the truth. Not just what you and I expound. It's just what it really is healthy. If you can't sleep, you got problems, dude. If you can't put your head on the bed and fall asleep, you got some serious problems.
Yeah.
If you have a bad relationship with food, you have some serious problems that nothing that a box with music and machines is going to help you with. Nothing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
So I guess it's kind of like I know I'm getting all extreme, but it's just.
Yeah, somebody's bulletproof coffee was a little tainted this morning.
All right. It's just something that it manifests as like, I want to be sore after every workout. That's what I'm paying you for. My other trainer did this, and I was always sore. And I'm kind of understanding how people think. And like I said, we've lost people before because people didn't understand that. I felt like I've lost people because they were so tired of disappointing me when it came down to, like, what'd you do this weekend? Oh, I got, just 2 bottles of wine, 2 bottles of champagne, that type of stuff.
Right.
They got tired of telling me this, and they kind of sensed that I was like, oh, okay, bummer, But the bigger picture was like, okay, what am I paying this guy for? I'm paying him to get healthy, and he's telling me all this awesome stuff. He's on the cusp of all the research. He goes and educates himself on this other things, and I can't even have a night where I don't drink before I go to bed and get more than 5 hours of sleep. I felt like on their end they were feeling that type of stuff, and I as being the person that's in charge of their health, because they're paying me for that position, I can't just be like, well, it's okay, you'll get there. No, because it just becomes an endless cycle of me accepting money for something that they're not learning or doing. And on some end, it's my failure as well as theirs, so kind of just the relationship kind of goes away.
Right.
And then, of course, they come back when they're so broken that they need help.
Yeah. Well, that's just a deeper issue of just kind of how you already talked about it, though. Just that's kind of how people are.
It's the process, It's the process of it all, and I'm fine with that. It's just so stressful on everybody in terms of the body and what's going on and how can we help it and everything else that it's really weird. So I say that, and I say all this stuff to kind of implore people to change, unless you're somebody who researches things, and I'm not talking about the popular viral video or the New York Times article about the 7-minute workout. If you're getting your research and your news from a popular source, it's probably not. It probably needs to be challenged a bit, you know. So
It
I
also
just
needs to be investigated further because
yeah,
sometimes they're just basically looking for a hit, you know. So figure out if there's an article on the microbiome, research why people are even discussing it or why your stomach flora is important. Or just
research who the 7-minute workout is for, you know.
yeah.
If your feet collapse when you're walking, the 7-minute workouts, yeah, that's 7 minutes. That's not going to do you any good, you know.
The moment, and we've said it a million times, the moment you start asking some questions, the moment you're going to start getting some answers, and then you're going to see a whole new world of mindfulness.
Yeah, and everything is individualized. The 7-minute workout might work great for Mark, and he might lose 20 pounds and be awesome on just 7 minutes a day and watching his food. And then me, I might need to run on an empty stomach in the morning, lift some weights, watch my sugar intake, and I'll be good, you know. So it's not. There's no such thing as one size fits all. I don't care who you are.
Oh yeah, totally. That's a tough thing, and I think that if there's any hope for the future of our profession, I mean, not that we're like in any kind of danger, but it's that you can always find someone like us or someone even better than us who knows what to do with you in your current state.
Yeah.
Is that
and that person will eventually be you, in a way, you know.
Exactly, and then it helps you in turn learn yourself.
Yeah, I see a lot of people that also, on the flip side, I don't want to be totally negative, and we can end on this in an easy way. It's like, I see people who go into the gym and are very efficient. They do certain things. They don't do much, but they do like 3 or 4 good exercises, then get on the treadmill, and then they leave.
Mm-hmm.
And consequently, they spend less than an hour there, and they seem to be the happiest people in the gym. You know, they do legitimate exercises, no machines. They get on the treadmill. They have a nice little warm up. They hit a couple good exercises, exercise to exercise to exercise, 3 different exercises, and then they get on the treadmill, finish up with some nice cardio, and then they bounce. Less than an hour, and it's different every time. They don't have a trainer. They just kind of do it on their own, and they seem to be the most fit people. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because they're never there mindlessly doing something. They have something. They're not crazy obsessive. They go in there, they do their thing, and then they leave.
Yeah, absolutely. And on a similar note too, if you've ever wondered when you read programs on the internet usually for athletes, and you're like, wow, that's all they're doing, just understand that was designed with that person's needs in mind for what they needed to accomplish, and that's how simple it can be. What Freud just described, what I just described, that's how simple it can be if you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you can go in with as little as 3 exercises, 3 to 4 exercises. Sometimes Paul Chek just goes in, has 1 really heavy, serious exercise, and then he's done. You know?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have, I got to do cardio. I was thinking about it today. It's like, just release all that stress about, I got to do an hour on the treadmill, blah, because I did this. That stress, and we've talked about it before, that stress is worse than not doing anything or eating right. Just the mentality of it, all that energy that goes into like, I gotta make it to the gym and do this. That's even the worst mentality. That's 10 times worse. That cortisol dump for no reason is 10 times worse than anything you can do to your body. You know, stress is terrible. So let that stuff go. You know, don't always have to be sore. You don't always have to keep these old paradigms in your head of like, oh, I gotta be sore to get gains, or I gotta be this, I gotta be that. No, dude, just figure out your own secret formula for what makes your body work, whether it's through a trainer, through researching a bunch of different articles, listening to podcasts, whatever you could do to research, and how does that feel in my body? That's the most important thing.
Right. I think that's all there is to say about that, Doc.
That's enough about that. That's all I gotta say about that. Is that Forrest Gump?
Yeah, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. That's all I got to say about that.
That's Stone Cold says, and that's the bottom line.
Sometimes doesn't was it him or The Rock that you say, and that's all I have to say about that?
No, that's Forrest Gump, dude.
No, I'm telling you, Stone Cold used to say that.
Dude, Stone Cold is, and that's the bottom line.
No, I know, but YouTube it, you'll find it.
Austin 316 says, no, you're wrong.
Podcast is over. That's what Austin 316 says. Well, thank you for listening. Listen to us on iTunes or Stitcher, which is probably how you're listening to us right now, or on our website at functionalmeatheads.com. You can email us with any questions you have or things you want us to talk about at functionalmeatheads@gmail.com. But other than that, I think that'll about do it for this week. Got any closing thoughts?
No, just be kind to your body and listen to it. If it wants to be sore, it'll tell you it wants to be sore.
Yeah.
You know, if it wants a nice, easy workout where you're getting the blood flow and pumping everything out, listen to it. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've hurt myself pushing because I've had to follow some sort of stupid idea I had in my head.
Yeah, that's always a weird thing, like, when you're on a schedule. Like, that's the thing, is, like, even on some really well-designed programs where I'd be on a schedule, and it's like, well, no, today's a heavy day, but you're just beat. You're like, I can't do this today, but I gotta stay on schedule. That's a terrible thing.
Yeah, that's the first thing I learned from, like, Paul Chek stuff, is, like, listen to your body. If you don't feel like doing it, there's no stress about, okay, I'm just gonna push it off a day, you know?
Right.
I didn't sleep well last night. And what?
There's times where I felt like I didn't feel like doing something, but once I got there, I was fine. It's tough.
Well, that's a different thing, because if you have a good warm-up, you'll know. Because if you have a good warm-up and you do what you're supposed to and everything else, you're firing, and then you feel good, then obviously you're just fucking with your head, right?
Right, yeah.
But if you do the warm-up and you're still not feeling it, then just don't do it, you know? Just do something, modify.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
But that is good parting advice. Anyway, people, take care. We will talk to you next week.
Watch Regular Shout.
Yes, do that. It is time for the woo-off. Good night, everyone. We love you.